Hi, I'm Daryl Urbanski, and welcome to the Best Business Podcast. My mission is to help create 200 new multi-millionaire business owners. How? You'll do better when you know better. In my interviews, you'll hear from self-made millionaires, seven-figure business owners, authors, and world-class experts sharing how they did it so you can too without experiencing the same obstacles they did. When your life and your business grow as a result of what you're about to discover, please call me and tell me about it. The number to leave a voicemail is 1-888-844-GROW. That's 1-888-844-4769. Long distance charges may apply. Dial now to call me, connect, share your personal story of how my interviews have helped, or share your current challenges and frustrations so I can connect you with an appropriate course, coach, or help you if you connect. Now, if you like this interview, please share it with a friend you think will benefit. They'll appreciate it, and I will as well. You can also connect with me on social media. Look for Daryl Urbanski, D-A-R-Y-L, Urban Ski, U-R-B-A-N-S-K-I, and add me so we can be friends. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy what I've prepared for you right here, right now. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always, and today we are joined by direct response copywriter and marketing consultant Donnie Bryant. And Donnie is officially or unofficially known as the most interesting copywriter in Chicago. And since 2007, Donnie has written sales copy for dozens of niches from dating to debt relief. These days, he works almost exclusively in the financial industry, and his copy has generated $25 million for his clients over the past 3 years. I've asked him to join us here today, help us understand how we can all make our messaging a little better. So Donnie, thank you so much for joining us. Man, we just had this great conversation for like a half hour before we hit record. But how you doing, man?
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I'm doing wonderfully, and I'm really honored to be a guest on your amazing podcast.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. So I've gotten to know you and about your family and your 4 kids, and it's kind of similar backgrounds that we've got. We've been trying to get this interview on the books. It's probably, 5 months now that we've just kind of been coming back and forth trying to make this thing happen.
Like that.
Yeah, and then even today I got talking about something and I was like, damn, this is like a half hour gone by. So, but how did you even get into marketing and copywriting? Like, do you come from a family of marketers or entrepreneurs, or how did you even get into it?
You know, it's interesting. I really didn't. I never even thought, well, I suppose as a kid I imagined I would be, Bill Gates or something, but never had any real ideas about entrepreneurship. I didn't know anything about marketing. It was accidental, really. I got into working in retail, like a lot of people do, and I got into a salaried position where I was working entirely too many hours, and I wasn't spending enough time with my family. I had 3 kids at the time, and even when I was home, I was just beat up, from having worked 60 or 70 hours a week. And I said, I got to find something else. So I started looking online for ways to make money from home, which, is, I guess, how most people end up looking at multi-level marketing, things like that. I happened to stumble across copywriting and instantly knew, this is something that I would be interested in. I kind of always loved writing, but never thought I could really make money from it. So it happened providentially, I'd say, and just kind of went from there. But no, I don't have a background like that at all.
So then what were some of the challenges in your business career, and how did you overcome them? It's a long road to go from picking up a book on how to write copy that converts or sell, how to write words that sell, to doing, 25 million in sales. So what were some of the biggest challenges and milestones on that journey?
Yeah, the first couple of years, of course, were very difficult because, as I said, I was working 50, 60, 70. I remember working 22 hours in one day at Kmart and having to do that and simultaneously try to pick up that book to learn how to write copy, write sales copy. That was a big challenge. But I really, at that point, like I said, I knew that I needed to get away from that, soul-sucking situation of working that long and being away from my family. Like I said, I had 3 kids and my wife who I was really not giving the attention she deserved. I needed to fix that. And so I was just motivated. But anyway, having the time, or making the time and the energy to pick up the craft and then to find people who would pay me as somebody who didn't have a background. I don't have a degree. I don't have any degree, but I definitely don't have a degree in marketing or anything like that. So just getting started, the first 2 years were really tough. I was, like I said, working and then working on the copywriting thing and harassing anybody I could find to see if they would give me some money. And then so that was a big challenge. After we started getting some momentum, it was about 2 years in, it started going pretty well. I got to a point where I felt like I didn't have to market myself. Like, oh, this money's coming in. That wasn't a ton of money, but it was kind of on autopilot. I had a couple of good clients and a good lead flow where I wasn't having a problem. And I just decided I don't need to market myself. Plus, I'm famous. Look at me. Everybody knows me. And the money dried up like instantly. So the challenge then is, my ego took a huge beat down at that point. And I thought, and actually, I don't want to do this anymore. If y'all don't want to send me money, I was hurt. My feelings were hurt. My pride was hurt. And getting back into the swing of things. So that was another challenge that I had, realizing that even when you think you've got something going, you've got to keep promoting yourself. You got to keep getting in front of the right people and providing value in such a way that, you've always got, leads coming in. I always got potential leads that you could turn into actual paying clients.
Deal flow. I had that problem too.
Yes.
Just you get cocky, you get arrogant, and all of a sudden things dry up, and you realize your pipeline is empty. And oh crap, what did I do?
Yeah, it's right. I didn't even have a pipe, really. It wasn't just dry. There was no pipe. I realized looking back, it was really, I had, like I said, a couple of clients, and then like inquiries coming in, but it wasn't any systematic thing. I didn't have any go-to methods that I knew if I go out here and do X, Y, and Z, I will have leads. It was all happenstance. So it wasn't just a dry pipe. I just didn't have a pipe at all.
So how'd you overcome it? What happened?
I went back to grinding. I think I don't remember exactly what I did. I remember I stopped. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I actually spent some time working in a warehouse. I think I don't want to even do this. Like I said, my pride was hurt so badly. And it was probably 2 months. And then I started itching. I said, this is really not for me. I went back to content creation. Like I said, I was writing on my blog and then starting to go back out and reach out to create content for other people, which has been traditionally one of my best methods for getting clients. When I figured that out, it really helped. But getting out there in front of the people who could hire me, and eventually it started picking back up. So, it was just a grind. Again, I didn't have a system in place then either, but it was just, let me hustle until things get back. I guess it was because how I got where I was hustling. That's how I got back where I was through hustling.
Right. So was that what
not
you would,
smart necessarily.
Well, no, but it works. I mean, if it works, that's smart. But what would you recommend to someone who's listening to this and maybe is either just starting out or is struggling like you were? Is there any tips or advice you'd have for them?
Well, I guess there's create a pipe. I didn't even think this. I mean, this language is kind of weird, but if it makes sense, you got to get good at your craft. But a lot of times you spend so much time thinking about getting better, and we don't spend the time that we need to in promoting ourselves and promoting ourselves to the right people and promoting ourselves for the right reason to the right people. You have to figure those things out. And the sooner you figure out who you want to serve, who you can best, create great results for, and then find out where those people are and what messaging will work to attract them with some regularity. The sooner you can figure that out, the sooner you'll have a system for bringing in leads on a consistent basis. So that's what I would say. Figure out your value and who that value works best for as soon as you can. I would say even today, if you don't know that, if you couldn't communicate that clearly, spend some time figuring it out, and then put it to work. Because you could hustle like I did, and but you're spreading yourself all over the place. I need to post on Facebook. Yeah. I need to write a blog post, and I don't even really know who I'm writing the blog post for. I just need to have content on my website. Yep. And what about Twitter? And what about emails? And what about podcasts and all these things? And it just makes more sense to focus. Yep. And be great at something specific.
Yeah.
Not everybody will agree with that, but that's what has worked for me and what really changed things for me. Is figuring out who to focus on.
Yeah, I think that's a real important takeaway. Be great at something specific. I mean, there's a lot of ways to make money online. There's a lot of ways to make money in business. You don't even necessarily have to be a business owner. You can make a lot of money working for somebody else, but you have to figure out what specific thing can I do. I mean, there's some sales professionals. I met some guy who was living in Costa de Casa next to a buddy of mine. Like, he was next to, like, I think Gene Simmons from Kiss. Is that who it was? Gene? But he's like, like, buddy's got this house in this fucking, like, this big fancy neighborhood, like Housewives of Orange County reality show neighborhood, and he's a sales rep for Pepsi. Yes. Started on the front line, worked his way up, and I'm like, for real? Like, he's like, I remember talking to him. He's like, yeah, I'm a sales rep. It was like a barbecue or something. I'm like, yeah, I'm a sales rep. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you manage teams? He's like, no, I'm a sales rep. Like, I'm a rep. I'm like, you're a rep, and you live next to the fucking general here with like 80 acres in the middle of Orange County. Like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm a rep. I'm like, oh, okay. And that's like, so I think there's real power in that. It sounds simple, just be great at something specific, but I mean, there's inch wide, mile deep. There's value in that. There's real value in that.
Right. So. And look at this. Your point is, I mean, it's like multifaceted, but the first part is being great at something, but also being great at something for someone specific, because now Pepsi, anybody can buy Pepsi, and maybe that's why you can make huge money selling Pepsi to, the masses. But you can do the exact same job for two different people and find that one person can only pay you $1,000 for it. The other person can pay you $20,000 for the same thing.
That's right.
Because it's more valuable to that other person. So you got to find where your value matters and makes the most impact. Yeah. That way you can get paid and everyone's still happy. Yeah. You're not ripping somebody off because you charge somebody else 20 times more. Yeah. You just provide 20 times more value to that other person. It makes more sense for that person. Yeah. Yeah. So you gotta also pay attention to who your who is.
Yeah. The who is super important. Good analogy that I learned to help, and I mean, this is something I constantly need a reminder of, but a good analogy is like you said, you could do the same thing. So maybe you're a bird, right? You're a bird. You're like, this guy was a sales rep. You're a bird. He's a sales rep. Okay. But you have an ecosystem. So like outside where I'm living right now, there's a pond and this beautiful park around it. And then there's some birds that eat the fish in the pond. There's some birds that eat insects. There's some birds that eat other birds, right? There's some birds that eat the nuts and berries on the trees, but they're all birds, and it's like the bird that's eating insects has to eat a lot of insects to make the same amount of meat the bird that eats other birds gets, or the bird that eats the fish gets. But he's happy with it. That bird's fine. That bird's adapted. That's what they want. So it's like, who do you want to do business with? Like, who do you want your customers to be? What kind of people you want to deal with every day? I think that's super important. I think that's a
fantastic analogy.
So good. I'm glad.
Because somebody has to eat the insect.
That's right.
Somebody has to eat the birds.
That's right.
Somebody has to eat the berries.
That's right.
So the whole that's a great analogy. The entire ecosystem depends on everybody finding their particular thing and making it work for them. Just to pick, most birds that eat birds or rabbits, they don't also eat berries.
That's right.
So if you want to eat berries, that's cool. Go for that and be great at that. If you want to eat turtles, that's what you need to develop a strong beak and go do that.
Yeah. And timing is an important part of that as well, because the bird that eats insects, if there's not a lot of insects, then that could be a really hard life, because it's just a small amount of protein. It's a small amount of food to eat one insect. So, but if all these other birds have all picked these other niches, fish, birds, berries, nuts, all this other stuff, no one's thought about insects, and there's just a billion of them. It might be, it might not actually be. It might end up being less work, because you can just sit down at the anthill and just eat them as they come out. Meanwhile, the other one's got to go for a swim to get the fish, and the other one's got to break its neck beating on that nut to get through the shell. Like, it's just, there's pros and cons to everything. So it's,
absolutely.
Love that.
I love that.
So what do you see now? Like, all right, so you've kind of figured out your pipeline, getting great at something specific for someone specific. I think that's fantastic. So you've kind of figured that out. Now, what have been some of are there any other challenges or milestones that you want to talk about?
Well, I don't know. I think one thing that I could probably say in terms of what has been transformative for me is realizing the power of, I call it OPP. If you remember the Naughty by Nature song, OPP.
OPP,
OPP. Exactly. But in this case, it's other people's platforms.
Mm-hmm.
It's worked for me because I spent a lot of time, like I said, hustling on my own little thing. My blog which had 47 monthly viewers, and my mother was one, half of them. You, you could do that, or you could go someplace where there's 10,000 or 50,000 or 100,000 eyeballs already going there, and you don't have to prove yourself to them the way you had. You're an unknown person, but then when you go and on somebody else's platform where they already have trust and credibility and authority, and you get to borrow from that. So you go stand on their platform and you borrow credibility. So for me, it was John Ford, if you know John Ford, his newsletter, Copywriters Roundtable. That was actually accidental too. I quoted him at length in the first book that I wrote, which was a terrible book. I won't even tell you where to find it. It was a terrible book. But I quoted him at length, and he took one of my chapters, a short chapter, and sent it to his people as his newsletter for the week. He said, "You gave me the week off. You mind if I send this out?" Sure. And he had his 12,000, 15,000 targeted people on his list at that time. And from that day, I mean, first of all, he gave a link to my book, so I sold some books. It was a terrible book, I'm embarrassed by it. But also got projects from Early to Rise came from that. It's crazy. I'm a nobody. I was a nobody, but being able to stand on that platform, I was able to get clients, including like Early to Rise, and I got several other, very good paying, great clients through that over time. Like I said, he said to me, "Oh, you're giving me the week off. I don't have to write this week." So if you can find somebody who you can give them the week off, create content for them, whether it's on a podcast or if it's on their YouTube channel. I don't know how exactly YouTube works, but if you can create content where they don't have to, or even if you're not giving them the week off, but most content creators want more content. And if you're just making it easy for them, then you're not pestering them for the most part. You're doing them a favor by bringing them quality content, as long as it's quality and targeted for their audience. So that for me was a big key. Spending less time trying to build my platform from scratch and more time positioning myself on other people's platform, which, carves out some of that, not taking from their platform, but, bringing some of that platform to share on my own platform.
Yep.
And I think anybody can do that as long as you have to have some level of expertise and some value to bring.
Yep.
And it just makes sense to, to go out there where the eyeballs and the trust already are. That was big for me.
No, I love that. I heard this quote recently from Jay Abraham, and he was saying, "Your problem is someone else's bigger problem." And I think that's a good way, like for you, your problem is like you needed exposure. Well, somebody else has a bunch of hungry people that their bigger problem is they're going to lose the exposure they have to all these people if they can't continue producing quality content.
Yeah.
So for you, it's a small problem, but for them, it's a bigger problem. And I think that's part of where you got to fit in there. And you also mentioned another thing, like, I feel like there's only 3 ways to get traffic. And that's what you're talking about is like exposure, right? And that's to buy it with paid advertising or paid endorsements and sponsorship, or to borrow it, which is what you did. You're borrowing my audience right now for my podcast. I'm borrowing yours, anyone that's going to come looking to hear about you and what you have to say. So borrowing and then building. Oh, of course, man, no worries. Well, again, it's a win-win-win. I need content. I need someone that's reliable, trustworthy, that knows what they're talking about. And you need, you don't have time to do a podcast, perhaps, So
totally true. I do not. You're right.
Yeah, so that's where and that's how as a species we've survived, is partnering together. And then the last one is to build it, and that's like the longer I do this podcast thing, the longer you do a blog, the longer you do a newsletter, the longer you network and build, the bigger, right, the progress you make. So buy, borrow, build, and borrowing is the biggest. I mean, Oprah, you get mentioned on Oprah. They have something called the Oprah effect. They've actually killed businesses. She has this like a SWAT team that comes in and does an analysis of your business, because if she mentions your product or service on her show, you will get trampled with customers. And everyone thinks that's a great thing to do, but it's not in this world world where like a bunch of negative reviews can bury you. So if you have a
Oh
little
yeah.
bakery and then all of a sudden 1,000 people show up at your doorstep when you're opening your doors next day, and they all come storming in, and then none of them get their orders done, and this, I went and it was terrible and nobody took care of me. I sat around for half an hour and nobody came to, right? You get buried in negativity because you don't have
Yep.
the capacity. So they call it the Oprah effect,
Yeah.
and it has helped businesses explode, and it's crushed businesses under negative reviews that weren't prepared for Oprah to be like, yo, I went and stopped and picked up this bagel at so-and-so's place, and it was so delicious, and 15,000 people show up at their door the next day, and they just get trampled, and it's like, for the next 3 weeks, that's all. And, and getting reviews like, I know they were on Oprah 2 weeks ago, but that was 2 weeks ago. Why didn't I get a bagel today? And it's like it's not a, so, but it can be,
Yeah.
on the flip side, like you said, it can be a blessing. You're a newbie, you've got no exposure, suddenly you're credible and you're in front of high profile clients, potential clients.
Yes. Yes. And you know what? That's another great story and facts that you share. My own platform, my blog, I spend very little time on it now, but I get steady leads from my website now because over time, like you said, I spent several years building it and borrowing and sending people there through an ecosystem of building and borrowing. Now I don't spend much money on buying traffic, but the building and the borrowing has created a lot of it's from the borrowing, but also building over time. And now the building is strong, standing on a strong foundation, and it all works together.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think there's merit to that and momentum. And now you've got a trickle. I mean, that's like this podcast. I get people reaching out to me on social media all the time, more people than I can keep up with and I try to engage with everyone I can. If you listen to this and you do add me on social media, send me a message too, and engage with my content so I know you're out there. But it's just it's that effect. It's like the harder I work, the luckier I get type thing, so.
Exactly. Exactly.
So when you're working with clients now, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see them making in their marketing and their messaging?
It shocks me. It shouldn't. It still shocks me to see how many people, how many businesses think that you have to speak in this very corporate language. And even lawyers don't like to read that stuff. You think that they do, but they don't. People want stuff that's easy to read, stuff that's interesting to read, some stuff that will create an emotional response. And that's probably the biggest mistake that I see. People assume that the reader is going to read, but you have to give them a reason to read. You have to talk about stuff that's interesting, and you have to talk about it in an interesting way. People won't be bored into buying, right? They won't be bored into reading either. And just because they sign up for your email list, this. Yeah. It doesn't mean that they're going to open. Yeah. If it doesn't mean that they're going to read, doesn't mean they're going to click, doesn't mean they're going to buy. So the biggest mistake I think anybody can make, especially in 2019 and going forward, you cannot be boring. They're not going to stand for it. There's 1,000 cat videos they can go watch on YouTube. They're not going to be bored reading your emails. They're not going to be bored reading your blog posts. They're not going to stand for that. They'll click away in a millisecond. So that's the biggest thing. And when I come in, I really work with a small number of clients now. When I come in, that's the number one thing. We say, how can we make this thing which is technically complex, or it's something that we all kind of know or think that we know something about, so there's nothing interesting to talk about anymore. How do we make that interesting? And because we got to get them to read. They're not going to buy if they don't read. So we have to make it interesting. And that's true for every business out there. Some businesses and some industries are, naturally more interesting than others. But anybody can be boring. You could make, football or basketball or boxing boring if you talk about it the wrong way. So, you got to make a way to keep people engaged, from the beginning of your message to the end of your message, and also from one message to the next message. You want them to stick around. And better than good subject lines is being known as a person who makes good emails. So if you send me 10 good emails, the 11th email, it almost doesn't matter what the subject line is. It comes from Daryl Urbanski. I need to open it. If you make 10 good podcasts, I need to listen to the 11th one. I just trust that Daryl is going to bring a great guest. He's going to bring great content. He wouldn't put bad content in front of me. So it's about being interesting, committing to being interesting and valuable to the specific who that you're trying to reach. Because again, the stuff that I talk about, my wife thinks is dreadfully boring. She does. She doesn't read my emails. She doesn't listen to She won't listen to this podcast. So it's fine because it's really boring to her.
Yep.
It's just not what she's interested in.
Yep.
So you got to talk to the right who. I can be as interesting as I think I want to be. It won't matter to her, but it will matter to people that this stuff matters to. And the same thing is true for some of the stuff that she likes. I'm sleeping through it.
Yep.
But she's enthralled by it. So you got to pick your who and be interesting. That's probably like the number one thing. And like I said, people won't bother with you if you're boring. They'll be subscribed to your list and unsubscribe mentally.
So know who you're talking to and who you want to be talking to, and then be interesting. I think that's really important.
I mean, you can't even be interesting if you don't know who you're talking to. It's very hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that issue. It's there are riches and niches, bitches. It's the concept, like, people have a hard time narrowing down because they want to be available for any opportunity that comes through that door, and that's like It's like a fear of commitment. It's like a professional fear of commitment. Like, I don't want to commit to one market, but it's like if you become really well known for serving one group of people, other people will buy, like, I'm not exactly that market, but I want this for X, and I can tell you're doing a fantastic job for them, so I have confidence in you. It's really, and you can actually build different faces to the same business. I had a client that had a moving company, and they felt they had saturated the local market, and so what do we do?
Okay.
And what we did is we had them compete with themselves. So they've got two brands. One is Move for Less, which is the cheap, like, low-cost version, and then we have Frank the Mover, which is the premium version. And if you call the phone number for the if you go to the website, Frank the Mover, and, like, call that phone number, you get Frank the Mover, and they come with the trucks that say Frank the Mover, and the T-shirts that say Frank the Mover, and the spread and the paperwork says has the Frank the Mover letterhead. If you call Move for Less, you get the white truck and the white shirts and the no logo pages. It's the same crew. It's the same crew. It's two different price points because you're providing the same service, but for two different markets, right? The higher end market, they want everything to be bubble wrapped and, take care to with kid gloves. The other one's like, just shove it in a box and put it on the truck and get it out of here, right? That's it. And so it's like, this guy's got a business and he's serving two different markets. He has two different front ends. I think Pepsi's owned by Coca-Cola because they just compete with each other, right? Because that's just a great compete with yourself because now you're getting them whether they like you or hate you.
Yes. I think that's a J. Abraham concept as well.
Probably.
But you know what? The great part about that is they're not competing with each other at all. Yeah. They're not taking sales from each other at all.
Yeah.
You worry about it, but they're not. But like you said, you have to make it. This is the high end stuff. If they sense there's an association between the two, it will water down the experience that they have. I got the white glove service. Boom.
Right.
That's what I want.
Right.
That's what I demand for myself because that's the kind of person that I am.
Yep.
And then the other one is give me the cheapest, fastest, easiest thing that I can do. Don't shave before you come over. Just come over.
Yep. Yeah.
And there's no competition between the two. They're making more money because they're being specifically targeted twice. It's so smart.
Yeah. Oh, super smart. I mean, it's the same idea as, like, take the Super Bowl. There's the guy that's going to steal it online. There's the guy that's going to, get his buddies together. They're all going to pitch in for pay-per-view. There's the guy that's going to go and group buy it at a pub and sit down there. And then there's the guys that are going to go, or the girls that are going to go, and they're going to sit in the nosebleed section. Or there's the people that's going to pay to sit right on, like, the center, right by the wherever they want to sit, right where they can have their feet on the grass. And there's people in the big box up at the top, right? The big booth that's having the party while the thing's going. It's all the same. It's the same experience. It's the same game. It's the same thing. It's just different price points, different levels of entry. Right. And that's exactly it. You can, like you said, like we said before,
great analogy.
You can sell something for $1,000. You can sell it for $50,000. It just depends on who you're selling it to, and you may have to adjust the service a little bit. But when you look at, like, even when you look at a car, and you look at, all right, I get the car with all the bells and whistles, and then and then you take them all away and you go with the cheapest model price. It may not be that massive of a difference. Do you know what I mean? Like, the price can be a drastic jump. So
Right. I don't know how your wife is. My wife loves handbags, purses. And, and we spend, I'm not even telling you how much money on purses. But all you have to do, I'm not going to say that the high-end purses aren't of higher quality, but they're not 10 times better quality than the lesser quality or lesser price brand. There may be 30% higher quality.
Yeah.
And then, but the name that comes on it, boom, now you instantly say, that's the one that I want to have.
Yeah.
You went in the Burberry store, I got to have this. Holy smokes, did you see the price tag on it? You could buy a used car for the price of this purse.
Bag.
Yeah, well, I want to have it. Okay, fine, but you can, and then you can go to one of these other places and get one that looks almost the same.
Yeah.
Or you get it when it's in off season, it's not new anymore, and automatically it's 50% less. It's crazy like that.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's you can offer virtually the same thing, and in terms of utility, it is the same thing.
Yeah.
But the experience is different because of how it's packaged.
Yeah. And that's a really powerful lesson for people to reconsider. So I love that. That's a great tip. That's great feedback. Do you ever feel anything held you back in your career, like a mindset or a mentality or a missing skill set?
Yeah, you know what? Yes. Fear. There's a lot of fears. Fear of asking for more money. You hear that a lot these days. Everyone's saying charge more. But I know for a fact that matter of fact, let me tell you this story. I had a client. This guy used to work for Microsoft and started his own consultancy. And I actually met this guy through Craigslist. It was crazy. But this is early on, one of my early clients. And he asked me to do something. He said, "What do you want for this project?" And I said, "I'll do it for $300." He said to me, "Nah, you're going to want more than that." Like, what? He told me I was underpricing myself. He told me that. And he's like, "Okay, well, let me reconsider my position." And it happened a number of times in my career where you find out I could have charged more. And again, not trying to be ripping somebody off. Right. It's like the value that you bring, they consider to be more than what I consider it to be. So there's the fear. For me, it was a fear of, I'm not really good enough to ask for the price that I really want.
Yep.
Or I'm not, I haven't been a copywriter for 20 years, so how am I going to charge the fees of the guy who's been around for 20 years,
right,
et cetera? So there's certainly that fear. And believe me, in terms of copywriters, but I think most industries, if you've spent any time getting good at your craft, you're better than most people who haven't. You just are, because they don't have the time or the skill set or the disposition to do that thing.
Yep.
And so you can charge more than you think because, like you said, their bigger problem hurts more than you know.
Yep.
And you probably undervalue it because it comes easier to you, not to say it came easy, but it comes easier to you than it did to them or does to them.
Yep.
They don't know how to do whatever it is that you do. And if they're seeking you out at all, they got a pain that they need to solve, or they got a promise they need to claim, and you're the key to doing that.
Yep.
So you're probably charged more than you think. I know this is true for me. Like I said, I had at two different times in my career, like I said, the one guy who said, "You're going to want more than that," and another person who I quoted a price, and then she said to me, "You're firm in that price, right?" "Yeah, I'm good with that." And she said, "Just so you know, I would have paid you 3 times more than what you asked for."
Yeah.
And she did that to me as a teachable moment. She said it to me, you got to ask more questions to find out how bad this hurts for me. And I would have gladly paid you 3 times as much.
I like that. You should ask more questions.
But you already, it's so true. We also are scared to ask questions, right?
Yep.
We don't want to feel like, we don't want to seem like we don't know something, or we don't want to feel like if I ask this question, they're going to feel like I'm trying to manipulate them, or they're going to feel like, we don't know. I know it's true for me. I like to feel like the smartest person in the room.
Yep.
I mean, that's a bad thing. But but you had to learn. You ask the questions. I'm not trying to manipulate you. I'm not trying to ask leading questions to send you to a particular conclusion. But I need to know.
Yep.
I need to know how bad it hurts for you so I can, fix it right. But I also need to know so I can do the job the way that it needs to be done. And if I don't know, then, it just makes more sense to ask. So, you do need to answer those questions
Yeah.
and probe to find out what's really underneath all of, maybe questions that are not, or issues that are not brought up. You won't find out unless you ask. And a lot of times, this is true for copywriters, but it's probably true in a lot of areas. Maybe the client doesn't even know what the problem is.
Yep.
They think they know, but they don't know.
They don't know.
And if you don't ask some questions, some strategic questions, you may not uncover what the problem is until you've wasted a bunch of time, wasted a bunch of money, or did a whole bunch of underperforming things.
Yep. Yeah.
So anyway.
Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice in medicine.
I like that.
A doctor will lose their license if you show up, they're like, "Hey, nice to see you, Donnie. Man, you got to get these pills. They're the best thing since sliced bread." You're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" But what are they for? What are they gonna do for me? Do I really need them? Like, these are just basic questions, and the doctor will lose their license and possibly even go to jail for prescribing things they didn't diagnose. And I think it's the same, like you said. Wow. You got to talk to them, right? We got to prescribe. What's your pain? Why is it? How long? What else have you tried? Where does it hurt? Like turn your head and cough, like all that sort of thing. So I think that's really, really powerful.
It's true.
Now,
I've had it happen a few times where customers would say, "I need a new landing page. I need a new sales page." Well, the first question you need to ask is not necessarily. I mean, you look at the sales page, maybe you can tell it's terrible. But I mean, what's the traffic source, and how are you driving traffic to this page? So they don't even know to ask that question or to think, to consider, if I'm getting traffic from X source, there's a reason why they don't convert on this. I'm getting from Vegan Weekly, and I'm trying to sell Omaha steak. There's a reason they're not converting over here. There's a reason. And also the ad creative that drives them there. If you're saying, "Hey, this does X," and then your sales page says, "Here's how you get Y," there's a disconnect, and that's why you're losing them. So if you didn't ask that question, you'll recreate a sales page and still suck. Because you never dug deep to find out what the real problem was. And the client doesn't know. They don't even know that they don't know. It's not their fault. But that's, in my business, it's my job to at least know to ask.
Yep.
And to dig in and find those things.
So what's a typical process that you go through? Like when you're working with someone and they're like, all right, Donnie, I need your help because I got this thing and we need to move more volume of it. We need to make more sales. We need to, blah, blah, blah. Is there a process that you walk through with people, and what are the steps?
It's a great question. Like I said, I work with very few clients just because I like to give high level of service to the people that I do. And it's like they're renting space in my brain. There's only so much space up there.
Yep.
I can't divide it up 10 ways and deliver the same quality as I would with 3. So,
Right.
So I work with less. But it's really, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go. Sorry. It's your interview.
Well, I want to make sure I'm answering the questions that are hot on your mind.
Yeah, no, all good. I was just going to, no, I think I even forgot what I was going to say. But I was also going to say, you have to get to know writing copy is not something you can just do with it. Like we already said, research is a part of it. So part of why I guess you work with a few clients is because you have to get intimately involved in their business and know, right? Like, yeah. So, that's all.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I often say research, in my world, research separates the men from the boys, which sounds like a chauvinistic thing to say.
No,
it separates
legit.
the pros from the amateurs.
It's legit.
It separates the girls from the women. The pros from the amateurs, because like we said before, you kind of got to know who you're talking to. You got to know what you're talking about if you want to be interesting and if you want to be effective. So I have a long document. This is if I was first starting to work with them, but after I get to know them, it's a little bit less rigid like this. But there's 5-6 pages, something like this, with just questions about who their audience is, demographically, but more importantly, I need to know what are their dreams and their desires, if you know, to the best of your knowledge. What are their pains and their problems? What are their fears and their frustrations? What are those things? And if you don't know those things, we need to find out. But we can probably find out if you got testimonials and you got reviews and you got past marketing collateral that worked or didn't work. You can figure some of those things out. We can get people on the phone and ask.
Yep.
But you want to know that stuff. You want to know, like I said, what has worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past. What other people in your industry are doing that seems to be working or is not working. from what you can tell, what kind of trends are going on. And that's all before you even look at what is it you're selling. We're gonna dig in to find out the details and the special things, the unique value that you have in your product. But it's actually less important than who is, because they're gonna read, the only thing they care about is themselves, rightly so. But nobody's gonna read an article or a sales letter or whatever about a product unless they know or believe or hope at least that it pertains to the specific pain, problem, fear, frustration that they have.
Yep.
I'm frustrated because I can't lose weight. And actually, it's true. Unlike you, I don't have six-pack abs. So this is a frustration for me. How do I get rid of these love handles here that developing in my mid-30s? Like, where do they come from? How did this happen? So, okay, now I can go and read a sales letter about how to get rid of love handles, and I'm interested. But you need to know that that matters to me. And it makes all the difference in the world in terms of results. Yep. If you know, okay, he's worried about love handles, he's not worried about, hair loss or whatever. He's not worried about necessarily building up his biceps, which actually could use some more too. But I'm more concerned about my love handles, my spare tire. So that knowing that language, the words that they would use to describe the problem themselves, if you can find that out, talk to them in their own language, then you're cooking with gas. So my process is just like that. You ask a bunch of questions, do a bunch of research, and kind of find out what's going on, and then usually we start testing things, we make hypotheses about what will work, and we try some things. Depending on what the scenario is, we might try changing emails, we might try changing ad creative, we might try, you need a new sales letter, you need a new video, you might need an entirely different offer.
Yep.
As you know, the offer is huge.
Offer's huge.
Because you can have everything right. You can have everything right, and the offer's wrong, and you mess up.
Is that? I'm trying to think of what it was. What's that direct response formula? It's like list. Is it list, offer, copy? Is that what it is? It's like I think it's like Brian Kurtz was saying
40-40-20.
That's right, and he says it's 41-39-20 is what he says. It's 41% list because the who is so important. It's 40-40-20, but it's 41% list, who you're talking to, and understanding them, and then it's 39% the offer, what you're offering them, and then it's the 20% is the copy and making sure that you're delivering it well. Like you said, and that it's easy to consume, and that it's an interesting story, and it, all that sort of stuff. So
it's highly targeted. And Denny Hatch, who's kind of like, he used to write a lot. He kind of retired, I guess. He said in the digital age, the numbers are skewed even more towards list. I think he said it's like 60% list, and so what is that? 60 and 30% the offer, which I don't know, but 30% offer and 10% the creative. And then you got to divide the creative between the copy and the design. But, if you believe me, the 10% matters a lot.
Yep.
But if you're talking to the wrong person, it's, you're wasting your bullets.
Yeah. No, copy can double, quadruple sales. So that's, each of these are exponential leverage factors. But the idea is that if you could be the world's best chef and you could be offering your greatest dish ever, but if you're offering it to people who have just walked out of an all-you-can-eat buffet, you're shooting yourself in the foot before you even get started. So the who is so important. You could be the world's greatest chef, but some of the stuff you source is from across the world. It's got to be shipped overnight from like China or something, and and then you get it. The price tag's so high. So if you're trying to offer it as disaster relief food, people that are like refugees, like it's just the who, like now they're hungry, but they can't pay for it. You've got the wrong offer, and that's kind of where this is it's like a matrix that you've got to get these three things kind of lined up really well. And I think that that's something that people need to recognize as well, that they haven't thought about that. If they're just being for everyone, then they, you just really need to, that part really, really, really matters. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great point. Oh. And you know what, people, I think they have an offer that they want to make, and so they kind of, assume that to be the case, and they work around everything else. Yeah. And really what you need to do is find out the offer that your audience wants, and then work everything else around that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like your kids. You got to give them what they want. You stick the
Tell me about
vegetables in the ice cream. You put the medicine in the ice cream, right? What is that? A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down type thing, right? And
so true.
that sugar
So true.
is what people want. And so you got to figure out where they're at.
Right.
And you got to meet them where they're at and know the language to say to help motivate them. I think that's powerful too.
Absolutely.
So where do you think the future of this is going? I mean, with technology today and borders dissolving and automation tools coming in place, do you think, how is that going to affect the world of direct response and copywriting?
That's such an interesting question, and I think I have some feelings. I've said publicly, I don't know if anybody believes me, but increasing, Billie Jean is marketing, yeah? Billie Jean's style marketing is going to be, I think, is going to become more and more dominant. Not necessarily for any other reason than we're just saturated. You could say everyone's getting 1,000 sales pitches a day. It's true. But really, it's like, how many, you have Netflix, you have Hulu, you have Roku, you have and you still find time to watch videos on Facebook and YouTube and on Instagram. How? I don't know. I have no clue. But we seek out entertainment, and it's just kind of how our brains are wired at least for the part of the world that's above subsistence living. And probably even those people who are, beneath that line, they're still craving for entertainment. But I believe entertainment value has to be taken up another notch for most people. I wrote an email, and my favorite subject line of all time, this is going to sound like patting my own back, but I wrote this subject line that homeless people need Netflix too. But here's the thing. It was based on a true story for my own family. Somebody with no place to live and a premium Netflix account.
Yeah.
It's more important for people, and that's a bit of an exaggeration. But and I wasn't selling anything in that email. It was just me connecting with my people. But people are putting so much emphasis on entertainment that if we don't do that as marketers, we're going to be missing out. And I'm not saying you have to go get an Oompa Loompa suit like Billie Jean. I love that guy. But I'm not saying you have to go that far. But you're probably going to have to come further out of your comfort zone, further out of what your industry normally does, and get be more engaging in terms of entertainment value. And that's how you keep people, because people will go and look at Squatty Potty or Poo-Pourri.
Yep.
The Harmon Brothers are making huge money.
Yep.
Right, because people, somebody will say, hey, go look at this commercial. In history.
Yep.
When did that happen?
Yep. Oh yeah, Dollar Shave Club.
No one was saying.
Dollar Shave Club was like that. It was sensational. That comes to the old formula, AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. You got to get their attention first. You got to get them interested, and then you create the desire or describe why it's so good, and then you get them to act. And so those first two, it sounds like what you're saying is those first two are more being dependent on the entertainment factor. That the getting their attention and getting their initial interest, the lead-in to the sales letter, so to speak, is entertainment based.
Yes. And when I say entertainment, some people get confused. I don't necessarily mean telling jokes or being crass, but it just has to be, we love Law and Order or whatever TV show. That's entertainment, even though it's not funny at all.
Yep.
I used to binge watch Criminal Minds, which actually makes you super paranoid. You don't want to go outside anymore. Everyone is potentially a serial killer. But it's entertainment because it kind of pulls you into another world. I'm thinking about scenarios as if I'm in them.
Yep.
And your marketing can actually do that too if you do it right.
Yep. And so, I think this comes back to needing to know your who, because if you know that they're interested, if they watch Criminal Minds, then you know what is quality for that audience. Like you can take a look. Like America's Got Talent is a great example of a show that we can watch it. We can see entertaining acts and poorly put together acts. But who's that America's Got Talent for the majority of your potential customer base?
Yeah.
What do they find? Because we're not all the same, right? We're not all the same. There's
Right.
different strokes, different folks. Some people have the strangest humor. Some people love slapstick humor, like old comedy.
Yes.
Some people love dressing up in medieval suits and duking it out in a field
Yes.
with their friend, like reenacting old battles. Like things like that.
Totally.
Like but what are they into? What do they find entertaining? You find that out. I think that's a great message to leave with people to help them
Yeah.
try to
I think
figure out
that
to connect with that. So
that's and you are seeing more of it, but just realize you're not excluded. Not you, but you're not. Your industry isn't excluded. Your business isn't excluded from this trend. People
yep.
are moving toward.
Yeah. The principles remain. The tactics will change
Absolutely.
frequently. The strategies change sometime, but the principles remain the same. And so everything we
Absolutely.
talked about in this it's high powered. We've talked about targeting your who, what you need to know about them, building relationships, keeping your pipeline full, how to make sure that that you've dug a well before you're thirsty, so to speak.
Yes.
One of the most high
Yes.
impact things is using other people's platforms. That who's already put all your customers together in one room and is willing to negotiate with you for terms to access them. So you don't have to build them one at a time. You can go get them all at once. So I think that's excellent. We talked about in our marketing communication how to speak plainly and that they have to have a reason to read and that we can't be boring, that our marketing needs to be simple, interesting, and fun. And so we've talked about some really important things here. Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
I can't think of anything.
Yeah, all good.
I can't think of anything.
All good. Donnie, if someone is interested in contacting you and seeing if they could become one of your kind of elite private network of very few clients, how do they get in touch? What's that process look like when you get started?
Yeah, you can go to my website now. Like I said, I really don't work on it often. My most recent post is from, I don't know if it's from this year or last year, but Donnie-Bryant.com, and there's a contact form on there someplace. So you can always just, if you send me, you go on there and fill it out, and you can just tell me what you got going on. And regardless of anything, I will make time to get back to you and tell you what's going on. And a lot of times, I try to give value, even if we can't work together. I'll give you some thoughts about, if you tell me your situation, I might be able to offer a piece of advice or two. Happy to do that, especially for your people. Happy to do that. The other thing is, if you're on that website, Donnie-Bryant.com, you can sign up for my newsletter, which actually doesn't help you hire me, but it is where the only place really that the public can get my freshest thoughts and craziest rants, on marketing and persuasion and whatever. Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it.
Got it.
Of course, you
Okay.
can respond to that email, and I'll get that message.
Cool. So go to Donnie, DONNIE-BRYANT.com, Donnie-Bryant.com. Check out what he's got. Definitely get in touch. Clearly, he knows what's important, and it's really about the fundamentals and applying this consistently and digging in through the details and the weeds. The devil's in the details. If you didn't catch all this, if you didn't take notes, you may want to listen to this interview again. Talked about some really key things. Like, it's really easy to gloss over things like, oh, my lead flow. Like, I didn't have a system for bringing in deal flow. I'm telling you, you will feel the pain if that's like, oh, whatever, that's not a big deal, huh? No, that's a big deal. It doesn't matter if you're a new company, if you're just getting started. It doesn't matter if you're kind of mature. I mean, that's almost where it's more dangerous because you're likely to become complacent because you've been, or it hasn't been a problem for 10 years, and now it is a problem. Like, fundamentals are fundamental for a reason. So highly recommend you get in touch with him. He's definitely a man of fundamentals. Donnie, appreciate you. I know you got a family, you got a list, you got a whole lot of other things, places you could be giving your attention. So thank you for coming and helping share with my audience so we can all do a little bit better.
It's my pleasure. Let me say one more thing, just to tie in what you were saying before.
Sure.
One of my clients, I can't tell you who he is, but the year before last did $700,000. We really changed, for the most part, there's one thing that we changed, one piece of his marketing, and everything else is basically the same. And in last year did $2 million. Wow. And it's just getting the copyright at a key leverage point can, like in that case, triple your business with not a lot of other effort. So please don't gloss over the importance of getting your messaging and your who dialed in really close.
So well said. Thank you, Donnie. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I look forward to a follow-up interview with you sometime, maybe later this year.
Hey,
You've reached the end of our interview. Now, first, let me thank you for listening. I appreciate and respect you more than you'll ever know. And now I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. First, what 3 lessons did you just learn? What 3 aha moments just jumped out at you? Second, what can you implement for yourself and your business in the next 24 hours? Third, what can you give to someone else to help you with, or give to them to just do it for you? Whatever it is, remember taking action is the secret sauce to results. Now, if you think this interview would be helpful for a friend, please give them a link to it. It'll help them and it'll help me too. I'd also like to invite you to help me find out more about the challenges you're facing, your dreams, your goals, and how I can help you overcome what's holding you back. We both do better when we know better, and your success is my success. So please reach out and interact. You can visit our website, bestbusinesscoach.ca for Canada or California, where I'm from and where I'm living. You're welcome to also try out one of our paid programs. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and pretty much every other social media channel you can think of. You should also subscribe to the podcast, and if you're enjoying them, please leave us a nice review. It really helps. That's all for now. Once again, thank you. Take care of yourself, and remember, the world needs the best business you can build. And I believe in you.